source of seed funding in the United States. A lot of times people think about angel investors and, venture capital funds. And sure, they fund a lot of things in the private sector, but our federal government funds so much when it comes to technology, and those SBIR and STTR grants, either through the National Science Foundation or the National Institute of Health, provide grant funding for early stage companies, and that's non-dilutive funding. You don't have to give up any of your company. Phase 1 grants can be 150,000, and some phase 2 grants, Carbon Limit just picked one up, a tech runway company, phase 2 grant for $1.8 million, not giving away any equity. So those are great opportunities. Everyone should take advantage.
But I'm going to bring it back to networking, because you got to find your way to get that 1.8 million by knowing somebody. Often it's not a simple application. Often you're going to some type of corporate event, you're shaking someone's hand at the bar or at someone's table, and then they're specifically telling you where that money is, because there's just too much out there, right? There's so many websites. I get a gazillion emails every single week, and I can't apply to all these grant opportunities. It takes a lot of time. Every website has a different layout, and I'm going through that with Owl, and everyone just keeps pointing me in all these different directions, and I'm like, wait a second, it's not enough time in a day. So I got to give the guys at Carbon Limit a lot of credit, because they're consistently going after the right opportunities, but they know the right people, of course, to connect with to find those opportunities in the first place. So let's get into our guest today. Of course, this is a show we get to interview the best and brightest entrepreneurs, down here in South Florida, finding the do's and don'ts. We have Alexandra Labarr in the studio. She's the founder, CEO of Alexandra Marketing, and she has a book on the table. If you're watching live, you could check it out, and of course, go over to Amazon and purchase it. So, Alexandra, welcome to the Shrimp Tank today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, for our audience listening, can you tell everyone a little bit about your backstory? Who are you as an entrepreneur? When did you become one? And tell us about your current business.
Absolutely. So I started my business a little over 4 years ago. Exciting. I just celebrated in October. I was in the construction commercial real estate space, kind of still am. A lot of my clients come from that space. And over 4 years ago, I just decided to bet on myself and started and opened up Alexandra Marketing. We are a boutique, I like to say, marketing firm. We specialize in helping businesses really create that brand harmony within their company. So our business model is a little different. We actually like to help our businesses scale, grow, but in a way where they're part of that growth in a sense. So we walk them through it. It's not just we're going to market for you. We're going to go ahead and do campaigns for you. We actually get in and we dig in deep, find out their brand story. So just a little different approach, and we can't become an extension of their company.
So let's talk about your past before we jump into your current business model and go deeper into that side of things. Often the biggest challenge is jumping, right?
Sure.
That first year, and it wasn't that long ago in your shoes. It was 4 years ago. Tell us what was going through your mind, why you want to take that jump, right? A lot of people have good earnings, right? They have a check coming in every single week. They have 401k, they have healthcare. And then all of a sudden you're like, nope, I'm willing to let that all go, because I want to make a bigger dent on this world,
Sure.
right? So tell us what that was like going through that first year and that jump.
Yeah, so that first year, I love when you say you had the security, the job, and I had it all. I was working in corporate, of course, working for a company where I had it all, and I went ahead and betted on myself. And when I did that, COVID happened. So let's go back 4 years. That was around COVID, right? So I opened up my firm in October, November-ish. Of course, it takes a little while. By March, the country pretty much was closing down. So that was very scary. But at the same time, going back to why I did it was because I believed in myself. And I feel like every entrepreneur, you feel it in your heart, that purpose of, helping and changing. And I do really have a passion, not just to help people, but to help businesses grow. So it was just time. And I took that risk and I never turned back, even during those moments of COVID where I really had to pivot my business model because we couldn't talk to people anymore face to face, right? I'm a networking queen. And now you're telling me I can't be in front of people and having conversations. So I had to figure out how to really pivot my business quickly when I just opened it.
Ah, that's phenomenal. So, how did you get into the construction and real estate industry? And you want to give us some more specifics in terms of commercial, residential combination? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I was in the roofing industry, and our clients were property managers and facility managers. So that's how I got into that space in the commercial real estate and construction. Really didn't tap into residential. It's strictly commercial real estate and construction. So that's how I got in. That was a good 15 years ago. Yeah.
So you always had networking in your blood, right? So were you always doing this business on the side, or it was always the corporate route, and then one day it was just cold turkey, 100% into this business? Because lots of times we see entrepreneurs, they take a client or two and no one really knows right on the corporate
Absolutely.
level, because someone's like, hey, can you help me out with my Instagram and TikTok account and LinkedIn account? I see you're good at what you're doing. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's $500 a month. Someone's asking me for some support. Then it turns into 2,000 a month. Or was it not like that? It was just cold turkey, one day W-2, one day 1099.
Well, going back to the power of networking,
Yeah.
that was my power. The seeds that I planted early on in my career, going back over 20 years, when I took that leap of faith and really wanted to bet on myself, I had a group of people that were my cheerleaders, right? These are my
Yeah.
networking alliances who really believed in me, because I always tell people your brand, right, is not your logo, it's not your company. Your brand is you. So I created a brand, a personal brand, where wherever I worked, wherever I went, my clients, my cheerleaders, I call them my business alliances, they followed me and they believed in me. And so that was an easy transition. So I never did anything prior to that. It was just, I'm doing it. They're like, okay. In fact, they even threw me a like congratulations
Okay, we
party.
got we got to get you in partnership with Kevin Cox. I've been saying for years on the Shrimp Tank, this guy needs a personal brand, right? Obviously, he's the
Got
director
you.
here at the FAU
Got you.
Center, but he hasn't gone on the trends of TikTok. He's waiting for the next one, and
Right.
I'm trying to tell him, I was like, it's time.
It's time.
Owl could be your next one, buddy, right? And we could get you going, and we need a brand for him, because then everybody will of course tune in to the Shrimp Tank more. We'll take more of the boot camps.
Yeah.
We'll just do more on the personal, like when they see the leader
Right.
promoting more things. Can we get you going, Kevin, finally?
Oh yeah, if you're listening out there, you want to chat. I'll be live on Owl at 5 p.m. today, so just hit me up if you need anything at all. So one thing that I'd like to point out, especially we have quite a few students listening to the show. So you didn't have any kind of issues or non-compete, did you?
No.
Yeah,
did
see,
not.
I think that's really valuable and something I always kind of warn students about. Those things have become so common,
Sure.
right? And I think they're terrible, right? Like unless it's a multi-year, multi kind of
Yeah.
multiplier salary, or you get some significant ownership equity in something, you want to try to avoid those non-competes, because if that's your expertise, if that's where your network is, it leaves you really limited. And I see them now for all types of jobs where it doesn't even make sense, right? It's an entry level position at a random company in XYZ industry, and they just throw it in there because it's boilerplate stuff. And it's
Sure.
like, hey, this is your expertise. This is all you do and all you know. Like, can you wait 6 months, a year, and not be able to do it? Like, what else are you gonna do? And if the answer is, well, like drive for Uber or something, like don't sign it. So look out when you're starting your career and your first jobs. Those things are brutal.
Well, I want to add, I actually did have a non-compete in roofing. So I couldn't work for a roofing company, but being that I am a marketing firm, there was no conflict there. So I
Nice.
couldn't take on like a roofing client. So I was their senior vice president at the company. So I ran sales and marketing. So I couldn't leave and go to another roofing company because of my non-compete. And I agree with you, because I feel that if you left a company, they should not hold you back from working. And if that's your level of expertise, that's what you do. So a lot of times they will stop you, and especially Florida. I see that all the time. I have friends that are
Yeah.
leaving companies, are like, I don't know what to do because I have a non-compete. So this is such a great conversation because you don't know what you don't know. And if
Yeah.
people are looking at their non-compete and saying, you know, something, if something was to happen in a year or two, I'm stuck. This is all I need, know how to do.
Yeah, and having one, if you do have to have one, right, you are a much higher level employee, right? Being the senior vice president,
Sure.
and that's fair, right? Like
Right.
that makes sense. You're probably in direct communication with all of the biggest clients in roofing, and it would be brutal, the other way on that
Sure.
company if they woke up one day and all their roofing clients
Gone.
disappeared. Okay, that's fair, but it was very specific to industry. It wasn't all marketing, like
Correct.
for construction and blah blah blah, like these umbrella
Right.
versions of it. It was, hey, we don't want you to take all of our clients
Yeah.
overnight. That's fair. I see so many that are much broader, longer, and they really constrain people at a time when they may need a maximum flexibility.
Sure.
Okay, I want to dive into networking a bit more because often we see people start their brands,
Mhm.
they go right to Instagram, right? They go right to LinkedIn, they go right to TikTok, and they get poor results. They
Yeah.
post, and a very small fraction of people see their posts, and their goal is to get meetings to turn those meetings into clients,
Right.
right? And often, it just doesn't happen, so those businesses fail. And you wrote a book. It's on the table for everyone watching at Shrimp Tank Boca. Of course, we go live, and you can watch this episode. And the book is The Power of Networking, Making High Level Connections.
Mhm.
And that's super valuable because one connection, could turn into an amazing client that could be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, 10,000 a month, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
But that's a start to many businesses. That's how most businesses get
Yeah.
off the ground. It's not through social media.
No.
So explain kind of what the book is about
Sure.
and what you mean, in those connections.
Sure. So I'll address the social media as businesses open up. You're right. The first thing they do is open up social media. And we have a digital marketing division. That's what we do. We help businesses create content on social media.
Yeah.
However, we let them know right away that that's not where you're probably going to get your leads from, right? This is, this is pretty much your business card in a sense. If somebody's looking to do business with you, they're going to go on Google and they're going to Google and see if you have a website, what kind of social media and following do you have,
Yeah.
kind of learn a little bit more about your business. And that's where you showcase it. So I love that you brought that up because we get companies thinking, where's my leads?
Yeah.
What do you mean you posted 15 posts? How come I don't have a lead? Well, that's not what that's for. You may get a lead or so, but that should not be your number one. In terms of my book, one of the reasons why I wrote the book is, as I mentioned, I've been networking for so many years, and I often would get, "You're everywhere, Alex. You're the networking queen. How do you do it?" So I said, something, I need to show these people how to do it because we make it more complicated. We're trying to get the quantity out of it instead of the quality, right? We're
Oh, I
rushing.
love that because
see?
so often everyone just looks at the numbers. Like,
Numbers,
how many
numbers,
business
numbers.
cards did I get at an event? I go, what does that matter?
What does that
It
matter?
matters about the one
So
that
the
you
high
actually build a
level,
relationship with.
yeah, the high level connection, making high level connection. I wanted to put that there because if you slow down and have high level conversations and be more intentional about meeting someone, you're going to connect with that person for a long time, right? And there's, of course, in my book, I talk about the follow-up part of it because we can meet as many people as we want, but what are you going to do with those contacts? How are you going to continue that conversation or continue relationships going? So I kind of dig in a little deep to kind of give you tips on how to nurture relationships,
Yeah.
but also, again,
So let's
don't
dive
forget-
deeper because everyone knows go to a networking event, meet
Yeah.
some people at the bar, walk around, go to exhibit tables. But then I find no one talks about what happens after.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of my skill sets. Danielle, who's hosting today, that's one of her skill sets. She does voice notes.
Yeah.
I just immediately I know that I gotta get them quickly.
Yeah.
If you wait a week, it's gone. They don't even remember you. So I'm like, next day, I'm doing something. I'm emailing them. Hey, why don't we grab a cup of coffee? Most of mine are Zoom. I really like to meet someone on Zoom because then I feel I have control where I can share my screen, show them what I'm up to, really wow them and
Sure.
build a relationship long term with them if I'm able to get on Zoom. But things fizzle quickly when you get business cards. So explain what is your secret sauce after you meet someone in person.
So, Jason, I have a little bit of a different approach. I don't
You're a
rush
girl.
to it.
Girls have a different approach than
Yeah.
men.
Well, in my book, I talk about the 3-day rule. I believe that we follow up too quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Because think about it. Everyone is like a shark.
Oh.
We're gonna follow up quickly because some people are texting somebody or emailing them in the car when they get out of a networking event because it's such a hot lead.
Of course.
So you
get
look
so excited.
That's
You're like, I
right.
just met the person who runs
That's irate.
three. She
3-day
just was at an
rule.
acai opening, and like a guy from The Bachelor was there. He was surrounded.
No,
Get the microphone, Danielle. Grab the microphone. So Danielle actually literally saw like 40 girls around the Bachelor.
So I was like, oh, I'm going to go to his business partner instead because I don't want to be like that thirsty person. And I've still waited. I was like, I'll reach out today because it's been 3 days.
Sure.
So I do
love
the
it.
same
So
thing.
So the 3-day rule is really anywhere between 1 and 3 days. Do your homework, and I like to do a little research on the person first. Hello, we have social media. That's what it's for. Go on LinkedIn, follow them. Look,
People
what
are so lazy. Or like
right?
they read my LinkedIn and reach out and be like, they don't like my company's there, my podcast
Yeah.
there, and I'm always like, they're like, oh, what do you do? I go,
Right.
what do I
What do I
do?
do?
I go, it's on my LinkedIn profile what I do. Like,
So then they
crazy.
send, right? Because you don't know what they do. So people often send a generic email. How many generic emails are these people getting? Number one, that you probably didn't even have that high level conversation where they can even remember you. Number one, hopefully you read my book and you can get some ideas and tips how you can. Number two, you're emailing this generic email. There's no substance. There's no nothing. There's no follow up. It's I met you at a networking event yesterday. Would you like to have some coffee?
Yep, that's what
You
it
know
always
how
is.
many emails I just received asking me for coffee if I'm the client? So, what can you write? How can you stand out with substance? So, you go to LinkedIn, you understand who they are, what they stand for, right? A little bit more of the background. So, then when you write that email, it's not generic. And then also, whatever conversation you have with them, bring it back up. Do a follow up if they like a certain team. Hey, how are those whatever doing? I know you are a fan of. We don't take the time, and when I mention quantity, right? Quality over quantity. Thank you. It's so important because we're moving too fast. We're
Agreed.
trying to get a lead. We're trying to get meetings, but it's not intentional. So it's really slow down so we can get the quality and have build a network where people are actually going to do business with you, refer business, because it's not about getting the business only. It's about building a referral, right? Source where
course.
people love what you do, and that's your brand. When people start referring business to you, it's not because of your company, it's because of you.
Yeah.
How you show up, how you answer emails, how you have conversations. What does your brand look like? What's your story? How does it separate you from
Very
others?
simple. How you make them feel.
How do you make them feel?
Very
That's
simple.
That's it.
Well, I love it because that's what we do here on the Shrimp Tank. Often I go to networking events and I don't lead with like a coffee. I lead with, hey, you would be an amazing guest for our show.
Sure.
And they see a lot of value there. And then we meet on the show.
Next step.
Right? We have an hour conversation on a podcast. And that's how I form meaningful relationships long term. It's the same way. It's not, hey, let's just jump to a coffee or meet and go for the sale. Like, no, okay, you'll be on our show in 3 months because that's the wait list.
Mhm.
And then eventually I meet them. I refrain from trying to like, even though I want to, right? Like we could have had like the BurgerFi president on or the Celsius CEO on, but I wasn't like, ooh, I need to get a meeting with them.
Right.
I'm like, they'll be on in 3 months. I'll meet with them then.
Relationships are built like every other relationship. It's funny how we separate business relationships with personal relationships. To me, it's the same. If you think of a really close friend, it didn't happen overnight.
No.
It took years to build that relationship where now they trust you and you trust them. That's how it is in business. So slow down and connect higher with that person.
Well, that is a perfect segue to hear from one of our sponsors. And then when we get back, we're going to jump into our hot or not segment of the show. Woo-hoo.
This episode of the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank is brought to you in part by Oz Digital Consulting. Are you a founder out there, an entrepreneur with an idea, or maybe a small business owner, or even a corporate warrior whose internal team just can't seem to build and develop the digital product that you need to solve your problem? Or like I said, you've got a new idea, a new app, a new software, but you can't find the right development partner. There's a lot of different shops around town throughout the US and of course overseas, but the best bet for your money is typically a great firm with an established reputation and a great portfolio of products. One of those products being Owl. And you can take a look by downloading the app. It works, it's great, it's high quality, and it's great UI, UX. That's what you're going to get with Oz Digital Consulting. So if you need something developed, check out Oz Digital.
Everyone, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. As you just heard, it was a great commercial from Kevin Cox himself, speaking about Owl as well as Oz. And what is so cool about this podcast is you could talk to our guest one-on-one on Owl. She will be featured under the featured category next week. Just make sure you follow her when she makes herself available. You will get a notification. Be that person to give her a ring and chat about anything that we were talking about during today's show. Okay, Alexandra, on this segment of the show, it's called Hot or Not. We're going to ask you a question and just dive into why you believe it's hot or not during current times. So let's talk about the audio networking world, right? Owl is in the one-on-one audio networking world, but we saw big apps like Clubhouse, which came and now they are kind of gone. They are fizzling like I've never seen. They had a $4 billion valuation, and now I don't even know if they're worth 10 million, 20 million. I'm not sure. I'm sure they have a lot of data that makes them still worth something, but just audio networking in general, like LinkedIn audio is starting to get popular. So do you think just audio networking through these audio platforms are hot or not right now?
I think they're hot.
Still do.
Yeah, I think they're still there. I think there's that space for, I think one thing about you just mentioned it.
Clubhouse.
I was on it. I drank the Kool-Aid.
Everyone did.
On it, and I formed a community. I formed my own club, my own
house club. They kept changing
got
it.
Got people in. What I love about that community is it kind of gets people to come in. It's not so big.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. There's people that want to network.
Yeah.
In a smaller rooms, or that's what they're called, rooms. So you create your own rooms and you bring in as many people as you want.
Are you doing LinkedIn audio now? I know they're starting to pop up. I see on my feed every day now, like live LinkedIn audio events.
Not yet.
Not big rooms. Most of them are 10 people, 20 people.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the massive ones like we saw in Clubhouse with like thousands of people in a room.
It'll get there. I think, like, even for me, I haven't even had the opportunity to do it. So I haven't even tried it. And it
brings up a good point. Everyone's always chasing, the bigger numbers. Like, I want to get famous on TikTok by just putting a post out and it going viral. Right? But often those viral posts don't lead to many opportunities.
No.
Right? A bunch of likes don't mean it's going to turn into revenue for your business. LinkedIn audio, I think, is a great place right now because most people aren't doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And you could open up a room and LinkedIn puts it at the top of the feed.
Sure.
Right. And then you could utilize it then in collaboration with Owl, because then you could just close your room out and say, anyone want to speak to me? I take one-on-one meetings at $10 for 10 minutes.
Right.
And then the right people will go in and call you because they found value that you were up on stage.
Sure.
So we're going to go hard. We are actually on behind the scenes going to form a lot of LinkedIn audio rooms with our Owl community, our brand ambassador specifically. And I'm going to put a big bet on LinkedIn audio in the future.
And it's small and steady. I love what you said. Like, there's rooms of 15, 20, and then you build, right? And that's how you build. Everything started slow, right? You don't need to have thousands and thousands yet, but you build. And if you bring in good content, good information, people are going to follow you and they're going to tell others.
Absolutely.
And that's the goal. It's just about content.
Nice. All right. I've got one for you. So expensive events and conferences. I mentioned that we just hosted NobleCon 19 right here at FAU, a fantastic event, right? We had past President George W. Bush and head basketball coach Dusty May as speakers. As you can imagine, this was not a cheap ticket, right? Just to attend, it could be upwards of a couple $1,000s. I'm thinking about going to the Florida Venture Forum in Miami. It's $800. What are your thoughts on those type of events for networking? It can get expensive fast.
It depends on what you're looking for as a business owner. To me, personal development, I don't really put a price to it. I feel like If it's going to help you grow, it's going to help your ROI. It's an investment, and it's an investment on yourself. You're not going to see it immediately, but if it's something, good content, good information that you can take back and be better at what you do, I'm always for it. So there's a lot of them. It just depends on the person. I would say do your research, make sure it is a good for you, fit for you. Who's going to be there? Who's who's the audience? Who are the speakers? A lot of times when we attend networking events, I talk about that in my book as well. People just show up, they pay, and they have no idea like what it's about. So I would say, please do your research before you spend the money, because again, it's all about ROI at the end of the day. You're not just going to pay $800 to do something where there's no value. What are you going to get back?
Yeah. Yeah. And pro tip for the students out there that may have a real limited budget, try to get creative if you really want to attend a conference.
Yeah.
I attended NobleCon as an attendee. I didn't pay for a ticket given our affiliation with FAU and as a sponsor. But one of the things I mentioned to students is a lot of these events, Maverick Reception at Tech Runway is a good example. It's only $75, $100. That can be a lot for a student.
Absolutely.
These events always need volunteers or would gladly take volunteers. And a lot of times what they utilize the volunteers for is check-in.
Mm-hmm.
Check-in is one of the best places to network because you got to get your little name tag. You got to put it in the thing. They're stuck there, right?
Yeah.
They're stuck there for 3 minutes. So you as the volunteer can say, hey, what brings you to the Maverick Reception?
Right.
Oh, that sounds like a cool company. Are you guys hiring or whatever you're looking to get out of it? You get to meet every person at the front door. And usually when you do volunteer for things like these conferences, you help right at the beginning or at some portion of it. And then you get to attend the event and you're just like any other attendee. So try to weasel your way in there if it's too expensive.
That's a great
Nothing
idea.
wrong with that.
And also what you do with the people you meet, like we were saying earlier, it's like you can meet 20 people, but then a lot of people just don't do anything after the networking. It's, oh, it's so much fun. I get to meet this person, that person. But if you don't go ahead and follow them on LinkedIn, right? If you're not following them on Instagram, if you're not engaging after you meet, it's going to fizzle and nothing's going to come about it, right? Something I do is I just make it a point when I'm at the events. I don't bring business cards because what are they going to do? You hand a business card. I've given out thousands of business cards. Nobody contacts because I know that they're not good at following up.
No.
But my skill set is I'm really good at it. So what do? When they ask for a business card, I'm like, oh, let's just connect on LinkedIn, right? And then right out the day after or the day of, I just like met at this event.
Sure.
It just puts a staple always in the conversation on my LinkedIn account. So then I could always go back because a year later, 4 years later, like I have no idea who that person is anymore. You just see a little headshot. They may have changed the headshot. You don't even remember them anymore. And they're like, oh, met at FAU Maverick event at FAU Tech Runway. Right. Then it's like you remember the individual and like, oh yeah, I remember that person now.
That's your brand. And I love that. We all have to create our brand. What do you do when you meet people? Like I have some people send out a little nice meeting you, handwritten cards. We have to create our brand. And part of our brand is what do you do? What actions do you take after meeting someone, right? During the conversation, the most important part is after the conversation. How do you continue it? What do you do? Create your brand around it so you're consistently doing it.
So we didn't go into depth of your business. Can you explain your business compared to other marketing companies? So, marketing could be so deep. Some focus just on LinkedIn marketing. Some focus on TikTok and Instagram. Some focus on ads. Some focus on just the relationship and a broad range of marketing with each individual client. So specifically, kind of go a little deeper.
Yeah. So we have a digital marketing side of the business where we do help people with their social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. We have someone handling that. We have our lead generation side where we make high volume calls to their ideal clients. And then we also have the coaching side. I coach and consult. So I'll go into a business where I help them with their marketing and sales team, kind of just dig in a little deeper. What's going on? How's operations working with the sales team and marketing? What's going on? Where's the bottleneck? Like what's happening to your team or the marketing team and sales team working together? So we create more of a strategic marketing plan for them and we help execute it. So I mentioned it earlier where we take the business owner through the process with us. So it's not like you're hiring us to just do the work. We bring you in because it's so important for you to build your brand. through that process and creating brand harmony for the entire company, every touch point, making sure it's truly who they are, from social media, website, how you answer the phone, your proposal folders, anything that you do.
I like how
is
you put
aligned.
sales and marketing, on different levels, because
Yeah.
often people merge the
Yeah.
two, and I'm like, they're different. I'm
They're
like,
different.
lots of times sales could be just straight up calling
Yeah,
businesses, or messaging campaigns on LinkedIn, or voice notes on Instagram, or email campaigns to mass lists that are in that niche, versus marketing is more, showcasing your brand up on a billboard. It could be, at an event, the way your logo is displayed,
Sure.
and branding all over ads and social media. You understand what I mean? So there really is big differences.
But I like to
And
bring
people
them
have different
together.
skill sets.
Yeah,
Right.
I like to.
Salespeople are very
Yeah.
vocal. They're good at networking events.
Sure.
Where marketing people are good on Canva, building images,
Right.
things of that.
Building, but they need to work together. So that's where, even though they're separate, I try to bridge that gap within companies because both need each other.
Yeah.
Right. Marketing needs to know what's going on out there in the community. What's happening? What are you hearing? How can I create content to touch that audience? Where the sales is out there, of course, doing their thing. So they really need to work together, and that's what we do. We bring them together to see how can we get more leads and get more business for you.
Okay. So my final question for this segment is, what are the hottest networking things to do for your business right now? And what are not so hot things to do that a lot of people continuously do, but are not paying off? So you're the networking queen.
Yeah.
You know where to go where others aren't.
Sure. So a couple things. The first thing I love to do is, and this is a little secret sauce for you all that are watching, is find a few networking alliances that meaning people that are going after the same clients as you, right? And build a community and create these small networking events together. First of all, it's cost effective.
Yeah.
Right. You all split the bill. You take out your client. That to me is old school and it still works. A lot of people are so tired of going to these organizations meetings and it's like the same people over and over again. So creating a unique experience for just a few of their clients. And what happens is we all bring in 2 or 3 clients and you meet each other. It's more intimate. And you do something like that every month. Are you following me?
Yeah.
It's really cool and it's impactful. I've done that my entire career. And that is a game changer. In terms of associations and networking, to me, it's all about your ideal clients. Be where your customers are. So I can't sit here and tell you where to go. You need to figure out where's your customers and where are they hanging out at, what organizations they're a part of. And that's where you need to be, right? People are all over the place. They're going places where their customers are not, and they're wondering why they're not getting leads. Well, you're not getting leads because you're over here when your customers are here. So do your homework, figure out where your clients are, who your ideal clients are. Those are some of the things that most people don't even stop to do. Some people do, but not everybody's your customer, right? Not every single person's your customer. So if you are laser focused on who will buy from you, you're going to get more out of your networking events. You're going to get more opportunities and you're going to close more deals.
I agree. There's so many opportunities out there. You have these communities online that meet once a week. You have female groups like the Sisterhood for Success.
Yeah.
Like she meets online, then does in-person events. Sydney Metzler, who runs TEDx Boca Raton every year, and then these audio events.
There's so much.
The LinkedIn communities that are out there. The ones on other platforms like Fanbase I just downloaded. Like I didn't even realize these communities existed on that app.
Sure.
Right. It's more niche down to certain verticals. And it's just like there's so many opportunities. And I feel like people just spread themselves too thin. So they go to every networking event that pops up and then they end up not getting leads and customers because they're just trying to do it all.
Be intentional.
Where you could be more intentional, where I know a lot of people like they just focus on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And when everyone tries to get in there, like, why don't you do Instagram? Why don't you do TikTok? It's like, because right now that I'm just all in there. Because the second you open up the can of worms, when you have a limited time, right? Yeah, it all makes sense when you're Gary Vee and you could hire staff to post here, post there, post there. But when you don't have that ability to put 250 pieces of content out per week, like he does, and you just want quality over quantity, it's like focus just on one platform.
Yeah.
That's where your audience is, and
there.
don't overwhelm yourselves. You don't have to try it absolutely everywhere. So we're going to take a quick commercial break here from one of our sponsors. When we get back, we're going to jump into Kevin's favorite segment of the show called Plead the Fifth.
Uh-oh.
This episode of the show is brought to you in part by Owl. If you're listening to this and you haven't downloaded the Owl app, what the hell are you doing? What are you waiting for? Owl is available right there in the App Store for download, and it is the fastest, most efficient, best way to connect directly to an expert, no matter what you're looking for. All types of expertise you can find on the platform and directly access. When somebody's live, you just call them up. You don't have to book and schedule and email back and forth over and over and over again. And maybe you get a meeting at some point, maybe not. No, you just call them right up. You can call me, you can call Jason, and you can hear directly from us. If you need help with all things startup, well, obviously that's me. But so many other areas of expertise are live right there on Owl. So what are you waiting for? Download the app, create an account, and start making some calls. You know the deal. 2 W's, 2 L's, because Owl is wiser. Whoo, whoo.
Everybody, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. I think we found our new spokesperson for Owl. His name is Kevin Cox. He's going all in with us. Sorry, FAU. This will be his final year in 2024 because we need our spokesman as Owl scales to the next $100 million brand. Right, Kevin Cox?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, this segment, Alexandra, is called Plead the Fifth. You could only plead the fifth one time.
Okay.
After that, can't say those words or we are not allowed to air today's episode. That's the rules.
Okay.
So I'm going to dive right into, what looking back in the last 4 years since starting your business was your biggest failure. You're like, oh my God, I really screwed this up. It could have been a financial failure. Could have been a relationship failure. Could have been a business partner failure. But everyone always has, a hurdle that they got through to keep on going. When you look back, what was your biggest failure?
It was a financial. So I started my business and, I was like, I am amazing at what I do. If people want my service, they're gonna have to pay. And guess what I did? My prices was so damn high. They're like, what? And I'm like, so that was my failure. I went into this like one price kind of method instead of, or model, instead of having what we have now is a la carte, where I sit with the business owner and really understand what they need and provide a proposal based on what their needs is versus you're paying me this amount of money. So,
okay, so let's dive into this because a lot of people watch videos on social media and then do what you talk about and fail. So what was the issue? There was just too much friction to become a client. There wasn't enough meetings in the beginning. What was the failure that occurred? Because some people say, keep it high, and they do succeed. They're like, look, I figured out how to get one client and then duplicate it over and over again. And before you know it, they deal with, that niche that's paying them. I've seen coaches like $100,000 and I'm always like, how is this person charging $100,000? And somehow they pulled it off, or they're full of shit. Let's be upfront.
Maybe full of
right?
shit. It takes time to get there.
So like, what was the failure though? Because this is so important for a lot of folks. Because I'm gonna dive deeper into what I believe.
Yeah.
Not always correct. But
the failure was the fact that I feel that you need to listen to your client.
Yeah.
And like I said, one shoe does not fit all. And I feel like when you go in, especially being a new business with this high price, you kind of scare people away. First of all, the relationship's not there 100%. The trust is not there.
Boom, there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm coming in as a new business owner and trying to get this amount from them where I know my capabilities, I could do the work, but I needed to build a little bit more value, I think, and build a little bit more trust. And now that I'm doing that, I immediately figured it out, thankfully, being in business for so long. I'm like, it's the price. It's the price. The price doesn't match the value. The value doesn't match the relationship. There are so many different angles that I was like, okay. So I said, we're going to go in. And I also believe that you're going to a smaller business, they have a smaller budget.
Yeah.
Their needs are different. I'm not going to do a huge marketing campaign for a startup business. Now, if I go into a larger business, that's a different type, price range, right? Because now, number one, they have the marketing budget and their scope's a little different. So that, to me, be careful who you're talking to and who your ideal clients are and where they're at in their current business.
Yeah, I see Salesforce in the back of your book over here. So when you're talking to a brand like Salesforce, it's phenomenal when you check out their stock price the last few years. Like everyone in the sun is using them as their CRM provider, but like you could push some bigger numbers, and they stroke bigger checks quite easier. Not quickly, but when they do, they do.
Yeah, I'm meeting meeting with actually today after this meeting this
Oh,
evening, just to we have a little partnership going on where
Nice.
I'm a big CRM believer. I believe that everything should be in your CRM system so you can follow up
Yeah.
effectively.
And I'm a believer in all this stuff that you're speaking about, because too often I see it on Owl, right? I literally see people charging $10, $20 to speak to them on a 10-minute call.
Mhm.
But then I look at their profession. I'm like, you're in a high
Mhm.
ticket sale environment. And I'll use my own profession. I'm a financial advisor, right? I want to meet with a lot of people and then show them value. And then, of course, the ones I could tell are the ones I want to work with. Keep providing them a ton of value to the day that they decide, hey, I want to work with this individual. And then at that point, maybe I'm charging $5,000, $10,000 a year, and it's very sticky. They never leave me.
Sure.
Right, 99% retention ratio in our industry, just in general. So I see too many people. I'm like, you're in a saturated market.
Yeah.
Like you're putting up too much friction to get those opportunities coming through the door. Even lawyers typically will, that charging $1,000 an hour typically take the first meeting for free, right? They're showing value, and then you're like, oh shit, this person is amazing.
Sure.
And then before you know it, you're like, oh my god, the bill just keeps running with lawyers. They're the best at it,
Yeah.
right?
Trust.
But that's where I'm like, what are you doing on Owl? Like, lower your price down to $1. Would you rather 50 calls in a month
Sure.
at $1 or 3 calls at $10?
Sure.
That's the numbers right now.
Right.
And the people who get it. They lower their price and like, this is just intro calls.
Right.
And I'm going to weed through the ones and create opportunities. But people can get out of their own way sometimes, like, oh, I can't give them that value for 10 minutes. I'm like, you're talking.
Yeah.
It's an
As a
audio conversation. You go out all the time and talk. Like, slow down. The second you
Mhm.
put their expertise on it, they just unfortunately make mistakes, but they're failing behind the scenes business, because then they open up behind the scenes. I'm like,
Sure.
but it's a simple mindset shift.
It really is.
Until you become that person, then of course do whatever the hell you want. You got 1 million followers, you want to charge that on a first meeting, go for it. But you don't right now.
Right.
So slow down. And
Slow
no
it
one cares
down.
what you did in your past. It's right now in this present moment. Kevin.
Tell us about your experience writing a book. I know a lot more
Ah.
people that want to write books than actually finish writing books and publish books. How was that experience?
It was very challenging, very rewarding. You need a team. Didn't do it alone. So writing a book, it's a process, and you have to be willing to go through the process. I already had a workshop. So my class, The Power of Networking, is a credited class for the state of Florida. So even during COVID, I was teaching the power of networking. So the reason why I wrote the book is because I'm like, oh my gosh, I was getting so much feedback from how incredible the workshop was, that people were just like, I want more. So that's why I kind of went into that route of writing a book. But it's a process.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. So
Yes.
my book was largely designed off of a curricula as well. So you had a core content. And those partnerships, those are important too. Kendall Hunt, if you're listening, love them as a publisher. I am 6 months behind on the next book. So good partners will forgive you though.
I'm writing another book next year. This is my 3rd time saying it out loud, so it's kind of cool. So I have the power of networking. I have the power of planning. So it's a planner journal that I designed because I was looking for a journal, a planner where I can make sure networking was part of my day-to-day, that I incorporated it. And then also, who are my whales? Who do I need to go? So it's a guided planner for anyone in marketing, sales, business development people, business owners. So it's called the power. So my next book is going to be The Power of. Stay tuned.
That's why I
can't tell you yet.
That's why I agreed to do this show. All right. Because now at least one local community successful business owner I get to meet each week, because it's on my calendar and it never changes and it's always there. I may do better. I may meet more. I'm into NobleCon and doing all kinds of stuff, but there's going to be that one every week, 10 a.m. and you can listen live.
The power of planning is huge. Planning, where am I going? What am I doing? What does my week look like? What does my month look like? Yeah, so important.
Okay, I got to get you to say plead the fifth before we end today's episode.
All right, give me another one.
You did some stuff with FAU. And we're obviously sitting at the FAU College of Business right now, at the top floor at the Adams Center. What was the most frustrating thing working with FAU? Or plead the fifth. or you don't want to say it on the air, you could say I plead the fifth. It's up to
Plead the fifth.
there we go.
Oh, everybody knows it was just parking. It was nothing.
It was
bad.
probably that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one.
That
if
was a
you
good
got
one.
around it. Of course,
were
sometimes
great.
it's
They
like
were
the
great.
approvals, getting it through, a lot of red tape. So
Yeah.
once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
And on the front end, you're like, I got to fill out these forms online, and you're
Yes,
like,
it's a lot.
who put this together? Like, this doesn't even make sense after. And everyone's like, yeah, just check the boxes off. Don't worry about it. I've been
They'll
there
call you.
before. Well,
Yeah, we could barely get on the internet today.
I know. Well,
But we did it.
Well, thank you for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank today. For our audience listening, of course, they can reach you on Owl, but what are other routes if they want to follow you, they want to connect with you online?
Yes. So I am on every social media platform, including TikTok. I'm a little famous on TikTok, just a little bit. My kids laugh because I have, I think, 12,000 followers.
Ooh.
So I tell them I'm famous on TikTok. They're like, Mom, you're not famous on TikTok. But anyway, Alexandra Silva Labarr. You'll find me on Instagram. You'll love my stories because I'm a lot of fun. I let you tap into my personal life a little bit. And I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, of course. And I'm very consistent. It's all about being consistent on all the platforms. So yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank. Everyone tuning in, we'll be back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Take care.
Thank you for having me.